Hello, beautiful friends, and welcome to a new series. This series is going to be slightly different, and I'm going to be focusing on what it means to live from the heart in these times. My first guest, I'm so excited, is Kyla Williams. Welcome, Kyla.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Oh, so happy for you to be here. I've known Kyla for just over 10 years now, and I met Kyla on a course where we were exploring energy healing and channeling and soul reading. So since then, you've gone on to be an intuitive reader, working with women, empowering women. You've done yoga, doula pregnancy massage. You've really done a lot that's focused on empowering women
Mm.
and supporting women to become the fullness of their being, I guess. Is there
Yeah,
anything else you'd like to add to the way that you work or what you've been exploring over the last 20 years?
yeah. I started my journey probably back in 2000 when I did my first holistic therapy study, and from that place, I remember feeling really called to work with women who were pregnant. So I did my first doula training when I was 24 in 2004. And the reason why I chose to do that, I felt like, one, I wanted to be part of transforming the consciousness of the planet. And I saw women as being sort of a vehicle for that because they gave birth to the new, I guess, to the new world and through the children, the incoming souls that were coming in. And so I was like, how do I access that point of transformation? How do I make the biggest and greatest impact in the world? And I thought, well, through women and through, working with women through their pregnancy. So I did my doula training in 2004, and through that process, I also did, pregnancy massage, and I did, pregnancy yoga teacher training, and I did, it based around Kundalini yoga, and it was all around my desire to help empower women to experience the fullness of who they are in their body, and start shifting the frequency and the consciousness within them. And then I realized through my doula work that um, the the babies were really important, obviously. So the mothers, like preparing the mothers and shifting their consciousness and empowering them, through all the different resources that a doula can offer, through education, through like birth preparation, and offering her and her partner, the options that are available to them to have the most conscious birth and most conscious experience that they possibly could have to bring in this new baby. And so my focus came from like the mother to the baby, and I was like, okay, so working with the baby and creating that space with the mother and the father so that they could bring that baby into that conscious container, so that that baby, from birth, had an experience of being nurtured and loved in its pure essence, so that was maintained, rather than it going through the process that I had to go through as a sensitive, of sort of relearning and opening myself and understanding who I am. The children now are getting the opportunity to have an experience of being held in that space of their fullness and their greatness and in their purity. And then I was like, but the fathers also have a part in this, in the birth process and holding the container. And then I was like, okay, so I have to include fathers. And so I started including fathers in my work, and the desire to help support and empower fathers. And in fact, believe it or not, I was hired as a doula to help the fathers. So I would support the fathers in holding this space for the mothers. The mothers were like, look, if you can help me support the father, I'll be fine. But if you can just help him help me, that would be wonderful. So I would empower the father through using my sensitivity as an empath and other clairaudient, clairsentient, clairvoyant, other abilities that I have to help the father and make suggestions so that he could hold that space and that container for that wisdom of the mother to be held, and then for him to feel that he was there to support the space. So I was like really fascinated, because I saw that when the father was empowered to support the mother, it created this beautiful like space between them, and the father would be like, oh my God, you're amazing. And then the mother was like, oh my God, but you're amazing. And it almost created that conscious container and that space to hold the baby, like, as you know, as a mother yourself, when you give birth and this new being is in the space, that container of the mother and father, or the mother and the mother, or the father and the father, that is the container for the baby to experience its first sort of reality. And when it has the experience of the parents being on board together and working together and being like, oh my God, you're so amazing, and oh my God, you're so amazing, when you have that space, the baby has the optimal environment to flourish in, right? When both parents are seen and supported and acknowledged for the greatness that they are. So I was like really fascinated by this, and I was like, oh my goodness. So the work is to be done before the couple conceive, so that we support the individual coming into their fullness before preconception, before conception, before pregnancy, before birth. And I just really got blown away by this opportunity to really support people on all levels, to experience and embody the fullness of who they are. So yeah, I would also work with men on supporting them healing and transforming limiting beliefs, energy that was blocked in their being, supporting, well, this is both men and women, but supporting them in clearing out everything that's in the way of them connecting with the truth of who they are. So the answers are all within us all the time. And it's just sometimes there's like filters in the way of our truth and our expression. And so my journey into wishing to transform the consciousness of the planet was founded through pregnancy, but then came right back to the beginning to discover that, yes, to plant the seeds before the couple come together and plant their seed is the optimal space. So I work primarily with women, yes, because I have like the conversation of women, the conversation of the woman's physicality and anatomy, and the sacred rituals and things that we can do to empower and enhance and discover who we are and the truth of who we are and the power that's locked within us. But also with men, and I do that through one-to-one work, through healing, but also I'm starting to journey in through sexuality and weaving that in as well, so people are discovering their power throughout the full spectrum of their humanity. And I also offer, the Journey into Heart courses, where people can connect with their hearts as a foundation, to feel the truth, mm-hmm. and to discern the truth, and then to be able to connect with their different senses, the clairaudience, clairvoyance, knowing, clairsentience, and being able to live an empowered life through that way. And then the next level and layer is discover your power, where you really get a sense of your voice, and that, the power in your being, to be able to speak your truth and to be clear, and like owning and taking ownership of your body and your being and the power and the energy that's moving through you, and then discovering your gifts inside that and being able to then translate that through to the world in a way that feels aligned and in truth with who you are. And then the embodiment process of really integrating all of these things, living through heart, living connected to your senses, being able to discern life and truth, which is so important at this time. And yeah, being able to speak and act from a place of power and integrity, you know, and owning your gifts and those, that unique quality. Those, like, I see them as like little keys that unlock the universe, you know, that we all come with these like unique set of keys and gifts that only we can bring, you know. So everyone on this planet, no matter what level of consciousness or where we are in our life, that we all have these gifts within us that are waiting to be unlocked. And yeah, and unlocking the universe and each other, you know, like our journey that we've had together, Layla, has been so beautiful because I've been seeing you grow and blossom, and um, just like connecting with your truth and your path. And it's, yeah, you have a very special place in my heart, because I know that when we met, our journeys were similar, you know, the parts of us that were, yeah, waiting to be unlocked and revealed, very similar. And so it's so beautiful to share this space as we step into our fullness, you know, into more of our fullness. Yeah, so that might have been a very long answer to a very possibly short. um,
That was an awesome answer, and I was really captivated by the whole story of the balance between the masculine and feminine, and I was kind of like feeling as you were talking, you know, what you were saying in the beginning about empowering the man and listening to the man so he can listen to the woman. It's that, and I was thinking, you know, you can't be a fully empowered being without both your masculine and feminine together. And I was really hearing that through all of what you were saying then. And then I was really feeling like the heart just like being that place of union of those two elements, the intuition, and then the action as well. And you were saying about the empowerment once you're in contact with your gifts, with your ability to listen and be embodied. And yeah, there was a lot there then. That was an awesome introduction.
yeah, it's so important, you know, that also at this time there's a real like re-emergence of the feminine, you know, and like the real like almost it was coming like from a forceful place, almost like a masculine place where like the feminine was coming forward, you know. And I was like really like, you guys, look, we have to honor both the masculine and the feminine. Both are within us, both are as equal and valuable. And it has to become more of a dance between the masculine and the feminine within us, honoring them both, both within us and externally. That there's no, like, the divine feminine is not greater than the divine masculine.
Mm-hmm.
It's the dance and the union of both of them.
Absolutely.
Honored and respected. So it's so beautiful that, you know, there has been this focus on the masculine. Now there's a focus on the feminine, and now I feel like there's like almost a need for that balance and that honoring and that respecting equally. Yeah, as I said, both within us and outside of us.
Yeah, such a beautiful journey.
Mm.
I just kind of receiving all of your introduction and your wisdom then. Yeah, so I'm curious where we're going to go from here. So as per usual, I don't have any questions prepared. So just gonna. So with the journey of living from the heart, it would be really great to hear from you what that looks like in your own life. How do you experience life when
Mm.
living from your heart, or like kind of like what's the difference between living from your heart and living from your head?
Okay.
Wherever you want to go within that, because
That's such a juicy question. So I'll start by sharing a little bit about my journey.
that'd be great.
So when I was a young child, I recall my mother telling me about this gentleman who observed me at the water's edge. And he was like, there's something different about Kyla, like something special. Like he couldn't quite understand what it was, but there was something. And what I was yet to figure out is that the way that I perceived and saw the world was different than how other people perceived and saw the world. And I imagine you can resonate with this too. So growing up, I was very confused about and very hurt by how the planet was being treated, or how animals were being treated, or how other people were being treated. And I couldn't understand why, if people felt and saw the world in the way that I did, how things like this could happen in the world. And as I grew up, I started to see things and feel things and know things. And as a very young child, I remember like being very clear, like, mother, no, this, like I used to be very clear, and I used to stand up for myself. And it was like I could see things, and I knew things, but I didn't understand that I was different at that time. And it went through later in my life where I was introduced to different things through my mother opening up a healing center. And I was introduced to different modalities of healing and energy. And I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting. A very curious world, but somewhere I felt very comfortable. Like, sometimes when people come across these things, they're like, but for me, it was like, oh, wow, okay. And also during that time, my senses enhanced. So I would see things, and I would hear things, and I would know things. And I was like, what's going on? And throughout this journey, my family, although they were amazing, in their own way, and I know that they expressed themselves in the best way that they could as a parent, just as any parent would. But what happened on that journey is that they were very busy with the work that they were doing. So throughout my life, I began to develop a relationship with myself, and myself in terms of something beyond myself, not Kyla, the personality Kyla, but Kyla embodying this spirit, and so I didn't know at the time, but I was developing a relationship with spirit, the spirit in me.
What kind of age do you think you were?
It was from a very young age, because my mother wasn't very healthy in terms of mentally unhealthy, and was unavailable for us. And my father was very busy, so I would never have that normal support structure as a child. So instead of being able to look outside of myself for that support and that resources, I turned inward, and I started, oh God, let me disconnect here. How old was I? Yeah, so as I'm feeling in, I'm just feeling it go from like all the way back. And it feels like I've had this connection since I was a child, like as I was born. Um, but the circumstances in my life reacquainted myself with this connection. So it's almost like I can see that. This is really interesting because I've never shared this before, because I'm seeing it for the first time. It's almost like my childhood was set up in a way where then I would have to refer or re-reference that inner wisdom.
Yeah.
Had I had a life where I had a different support structure or a different life or upbringing, then I might not have had that access to it.
I've got goosebumps going up all over my body. I was thinking, like, sorry to interrupt, I was just thinking about, like, oh, that's an awakening, isn't it? I mean, that's kind of what happens to people. Like, they have some kind of trauma at any point in their life, and it's like suddenly they have to source from a different place. And so that, yeah, just yeah. And you had that really early on.
Yes. So my relationship started very, very young. And it was quite interesting moving in a world with sensitivity, because often I'd feel very overwhelmed, or people would call me too sensitive. Like my parents and family would withhold things from me because they'd be like, "Oh, Kyla, we can't share this with you because you're too sensitive." And I didn't really understand why that would impact them sharing things with me, but I do understand now from an intellectual perspective. Um, and yeah, so it's learning to be a sensitive in a world that you're that's very new and very different from where your perspective is. So I would say, yeah, that the living through heart and living connected to spirit. So living through heart for me feels very much like living with spirit. There doesn't feel like there's a separation between living through my truth in my heart than living through my truth as a soul, as a spirit, So yeah, so that journey just deepened. And as I got older, I noticed that I had a lot of older friends. I had a lot of older friends because I don't know why. I think a lot of people that were my age weren't into things that I was into. Like I felt quite different in that way. And so I found myself as a very young, like about, I think I was 18 or 19. I remember speaking to this group of sort of spiritual group of people. And I said, how do you know when something is like your emotions or your physical symptom and when it's somebody else's? Because I would experience like things in my being that I was like, well, this doesn't feel like mine.
Yeah.
But I didn't have the awareness or the boundaries to be able to discern or to minimize that impact on my physical being. So it was through my life, yeah, I would make a lot of choices and my heart would be like, oh, you got to do this. And I'd be like, okay. So I used to do a lot of really strange things. I used to make a lot of unusual decisions, and a lot of people in my life would be like, what are you doing? And I was like, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense, but I just know I need to do it. And there were times as well when I would know what the truth was and where I should go and what direction I should take. And then my mind, I would say, well, no, I need to prove myself wrong, or I need to have the experience of this to ensure that what I was feeling was true. And each time, Layla, without a doubt, it would be that I would get this big universal slap across the face that would say, Kyla, you knew better. And I'd be like, oh yeah, I did know, but I betrayed myself. The amount of times I betrayed myself, but all of that was in preparation for this journey. It's all part of it. So um yeah, so that journey would continue, and then I would go, oh, okay. And then when later on, when we did their course together in 2019, I was already on that path, having done loads of Reiki, loads of healing, loads of training, in various different modalities. And so I started to get that clarity through my center, that awareness of who I was, both as a sensitive and a spirit, soul, and consciousness in this physical body. And the work was to embody spirit, to embody that knowing, that wisdom, that sensitivity, that connection, that centeredness. And so that process continued, through doing work and understanding my abilities, understanding that, I could see, feel, hear, know things through not even physically touching. We learned that, didn't we, together, using our hands to see. And then I'm like, actually, I don't have to work on the body. I can just stand away from the body and I can read somebody's energy. I can see what's going on, and I can see, feel, know, hear, like their consciousness speaking to me. And yeah, so this has been very much a journey of deepening that awareness and that sensitivity. And, again, having to have the experiences through my life where I didn't listen to what my spirit soul was asking me or my heart was asking me. and then having to experience the repercussions and the pain and discomfort that that brought, so that it would then crack me open to surrendering, to trusting myself. So the journey, as I know that you're very familiar with as well, is the journey of trusting this wisdom and this knowing and the truth in our heart. And throughout this journey, this connection to myself, this relationship to my heart, to my soul, to spirit, to my physical body, has allowed me to follow my heart into the darkness of the unknown, and then come out completely transformed as a result of doing this. And I know that this is in part one of the questions that you asked. So it's like, I'll be I'll I'll be like sitting in meditation, or I'll be active, and I'll get these like downloads or this communication or these visions of what I'm meant to do or what I need to do. And one of the first times this came in really strongly was in 2016, when my that's interesting. I just realized I said that we did the course in 2019 when it was 2009.
I didn't want to interrupt you because you were on a flow, and I thought, oh, it doesn't matter.
Thank you. But yes, and just so that everyone knows, and that I know, and that, because when I feel an out of integrity in my system, something, I get alerted, and it was like, oh, Kyla, you said something that wasn't true. It's like, so I needed to clarify that for myself and my.
I love that you have that level of sensitivity. Like, that blows me away, that you know that's still there, that you can feel that in your energy field still. I mean, I just want to use the word exquisite, that, like, it's like this kind of like really refined crystalline energy. That's what I feel when,
There's something that happens in my energy where if something that I say isn't true or isn't aligned to my truth, it's like it stays with me as like I need to clarify this. And as you say, it's like a refinement. The relationship that I've developed with myself is like continually refining.
Do you think that's like now it's really about embodiment? And I love the way that you've said that a few times now. You've referred to the body as well, so you're like spirit, heart and body, and so the more that you're embodying your spirit, and the more that you're living from your heart, and you're like, anything that isn't of the frequency of your spirit, like, you can just feel it. It's like it can't be here.
Yes, and that goes across the board, and that's very much, in keeping with what I was about to share, which is like living in alignment with your heart and your truth, right? And so that includes like foods that we eat, that includes like things that we spend our time doing, people who we spend time with, and even like thoughts that we have, and the way that we choose to live our life and who we choose to live our life with. So it's like a constant refinement, and I'm constantly clearing out and releasing and letting go everything that's not serving me, as well as things that are not in alignment with my highest truth or my heart. So it's really interesting. It's like shedding of skin, constantly always checking in to make sure, is this aligned? Is this aligned? Is this aligned with what I'm creating? Is this aligned with my truth and does this have integrity for me to continue being, speaking, living like this? Which can be very interesting for my husband, because I have joked with him. I have said, honey, I have been so many different women in the last 9 years. It's like, who you don't really need anything else, because it's like you've got this new woman almost every year. So yeah, it's quite funny thing. And in terms of my husband as well, like I remember in 2016 when he said to me, Kyla, So I want to schedule in this workshop with you. So can I book you in for October? And this was like in August. So he's like, can I schedule you in to do this work with me in October? And I was like, I don't think I'm going to be here. And he's like, what do you mean? You're not going to be here? And I was like, I don't know. I just feel like I'm not going to be here. And he's like, okay, so where are you going to be? And I was like, I feel like I'm going to be in Bali. And he said, Bali? What? Why are you going to be in Bali? And I was like, I don't know why I'm going to be in Bali. I just know that I need to be there. And he was like, well, how long are you going for? And I was like, okay, 2 or 3 weeks. And he's like, no, you can't go for 2 or 3 weeks. And I was like, no, I have to go for that time period. And he was like, I don't get it. And I was like, you know what? I don't either. He's like, it's so crazy. And I was like, I know, right? It's so crazy that I need to be there in October for that time period, because it never had happened before. Like I had never had such clarity. And so what happened was I went to book my ticket, and I got this ticket for a very cheap price. I think it was like something like $3.59 for a return ticket to Bali. It was the last space left on a 5-star airline. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Okay, so thank you, universe. And these synchronicities continued to line up for me when I went to Bali. And I also remember a real turning point that made it very clear what was happening for me in Bali was that, so again, the synchronicities continued, like the support from the universe was coming and being delivered. And I was very grateful. And I remember having decided that, on the full moon, that I decided that I'd like to go to the Tirata Pool. So the Tirata Pool is like this space where the Balinese go to receive healing and blessing from the different springs that are available at the Tirata Pool. So for cleansing and healing and blessings. And so I decided I wanted to go on the full moon. And I also knew that the Balinese love to go during the full moon because that was part of their ceremony and ritual. So I felt very connected, that I would be very connected to the ritual and the Balinese culture. So I arrived at the Tirata Pool, and I was there, and I was going to the different springs. And I remember that someone said, Kyla, don't go to that spring because that spring is for dying, like the death, like around death and dying. And I was like, oh, okay. And then for a second I was like, oh, what day is it today? And I was like, oh, it's the anniversary of my mother passing. Wow. Today. And at that moment, when I realized that I had come to the Tirata Pool for healing and blessing and nourishment, that I had actually gone on the day of my mother's anniversary. And that point, my whole being started to cry. But it wasn't crying because of sadness. It was crying because it was an overwhelming feeling of joy and gratitude. That I was, for the first time during this week period of my mother's passing, I was actually experiencing tears of joy. And at that moment, I started feeling like this shift happening within me, that for like the 20 years prior to this time, I would always feel like this sense of, even if I wasn't conscious of it, it would be during that week, I would be like, oh, what's going on in my energy? Because I could feel it shifting and it was very low. And I would have, emotion. I would have this sense of little depression or this drop in my energy, and I wouldn't understand it. And then at this time, it was the first time in my life that I had experienced something other than that in that week, of this upliftment, this healing, this nourishment, as if from mother. And the other thing that I felt intuitively is that I needed to go there and I needed to meet a Balinese woman who was also into birth work. I didn't know why, I didn't know who. And this woman appeared on my Facebook feed, and I was like, oh, who is this woman? And she was also a Kundalini yogi. And I was like, okay, I don't know how we became friends. I don't know if I know you, if I know you and where from I know you, but I've noticed that you're Balinese, that you're living in Bali, and that you're also working with women in birth work and a Kundalini yogi. Can I meet with you? And she said yes. And I was like, oh, thank you, universe. Thank you. And what happened was she said, well, I'm living up north, so you'll have to come and see me up north because I can't get time off, which I was like, okay, fine. Just tell me where I need to go and where I need to stay, and I'll be there. And she said, well, I'd like to invite you to come and stay at the resort, and I can get you a Balinese price to stay at this resort. And I was like, okay, I'll come. Yes, sure. And this is my heart saying yes, yes, yes. And my mind going, whatever, like I have no idea where I'm going, but just trust the heart. So the time came for me to go. And at that time, I also had come in contact with another woman who I felt very connected with. So her and I made this journey together up to this resort to see my friends. And we started driving up this really long driveway. And I was like, what's going on? Where am I? Where have we come to? And then this car pulled up in front of this like very luxurious space. And I was like, oh, what is going on? And so I got out, and the people said, okay, come and sit down, have your feet done. So I had my feet bathed in rose petals or flower petals. And then someone came up to me and went, and here is the menu. And I was like, oh, the menu for what? What? And they said, every day you'll have a massage or a treatment included. All of your meals will be included. The 3 meals will be included. And, you can have access to yoga and different activities throughout your stay. And I was just like looking at my friend, and we were just like, what's going on here? And so my friend came over and she's like, hi, I hope, have a nice stay. And I look forward to connecting with you while you're here. And I was like, okay, well, I'm just here to see you. So, whenever we can, meet, that would be wonderful. And what happened is I would see her sporadically throughout this time and spend time with her. But what I realized, what was happening is that the divine, or the Bali, and the universe were conspiring to hold and support me and nurture me like mother. So what I end up having experiences of is like being in this space, being totally cared for, all of my needs looked after, and also receiving these treatments every day. And so my friend and I would be sitting, and I do remember this moment where we were given these like sugar cane ice slashes in these banana leaves, and our knees were covered in this steam, being steamed, and we were looking over at each other, and her glasses were steamed, and we were just like in hysterics because we couldn't believe what was happening. And both of us, have been people in our lives that have been these givers and haven't been able to receive. And so here we were being given and loved and nurtured like mother. And so I went through this other layers of healing and transformation around feeling like, yes, okay, my physical mother isn't present, but the divine and Bali are are acting as mother to nourish and support me. And so I had this experience of receiving from the divine via a country, via a woman I didn't know, by having the abundance of synchronicities come in to support me on that journey into the unknown. And from that place, I've had many experiences of following heart and then being expanded and transformed beyond my imagination, and having the wildest experiences that have nurtured and transformed me. So yeah, living through heart isn't a part-time thing. You know, it's really available to everyone who's willing to choose it and to be courageous
Yeah.
in following that.
Yeah. And not to listen to, I mean, do you have the experience still of your mind coming in and just going, what are you doing, Kyla? You know, like, do you
Yeah.
still have that, even like, even though you understand how this works?
Yeah, so when I came back from a very big transformative experience in Thailand, and so what happens is I seem to be taken to places to activate and transform, and it requires me to leave the comfort of my known reality, so then I step beyond my reality into these unknown realms. And I had come back from something like this, and as soon as I had come back, almost instantly the universe was like bringing me these synchronicities around going to another location. And I think people think, oh, that's really nice that Kyla gets guided and to go to all these amazing places. But my spirit is actually asking for me to go, and my heart is asking me to go to have maybe, like, you know how we each have a key to unlock things within us. I feel that like energies of places, of countries, have these keys that unlock things within us. And when I had come back, the universe was asking me to then go to Maui, go to Hawaii. And I was like, no, 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 I can't physically, like, I can't mentally accept that. I can't allow that to happen because it's just so, like, I've just come from that. Like, I've spent money, we've put resources towards doing that. I'd just been blown beyond my fears. I had healed myself of my greatest fears. And then the universe was like, 2-3 months later, was saying, okay, now I want you to go to this place and have this experience. And I was like, no. And my husband was like, no. And I was like, I know, I can't, this one I can't do because it's so close. So yeah, I have gotten in the way of myself. Absolutely. I've allowed my mind to do that. But since then, I can't honestly say that I've allowed my mind to get in the way of what my heart is saying. It's like, because I know that in following heart, in following spirit, you know, we're always given what we need when we need it. And I know that you're also a very good representation of that.
So in it right now, like, I feel like this is, like, I'm just really embarking on it now. I feel like I've been resisting it for years, and now I'm like, I met somebody today, it was really kind of random, and he said, oh, like, he talked about it as if he's surfing, like, just moving with the waves. And it was just like, yeah, I'm surfing a big wave right now of, like, just don't know what's happening. And yeah, I feel so full of trust, and like, yeah, I can't not do this now. I can't not live this way anymore.
Mm.
Yeah,
And
it's,
what happens when you do, Layla?
yeah, I get looked after. I mean, when I came to this house that I'm in right now, and I'm only here for 2 months, and I had no money, and I was like, I don't even know how I'm going to feed myself. Why? You, like, my mind is like, you know, it's crazy. I don't know, but like every part of my being was just like, go. And yeah, I like, we're right in the in the coronavirus stuff right now. So it's the 22nd of April right now, 2020. Earth Day, 444, new moon. It's a potent day. And I'm just sharing that because I could not have orchestrated with my mind landing in just the most beautiful, nurturing space for me right now to be in lockdown. I even had my daughter here for a little while. And I just, by saying yes to something that seemed crazy because I couldn't, because I believed I didn't have the money to survive. um yeah, it's just, it's amazing, like, to get, and I feel so expanded, like you were saying, you know, that, like, I'm like, oh wow, like, I can really trust this. And I'm having experience after experience now of just knowing that I can trust this wave. I can trust spirit. I can trust my heart. And in fact, not only can I trust it, I have to do this. Like, this is the way we're all meant to be living, and this is, yeah, like this is how life is, wants to support us. And yeah, it is an incredible journey, really
Yeah.
incredible. And
It,
I have no idea where I'm going to be in 3 weeks. Right now I have like virtually no, but I have all I need right now. I have all I need. I don't know where I'm going, and I strangely don't feel, I'm having little moments of going, oh my God, and then mostly I'm just like, oh, what's going to happen next? Like, yeah, it's exciting. It's a really exciting way to live life. It's like living in your own movie, starring, being the star role of your own movie. And I always think about that when, like, when you share your stories, I always think it sounds like a movie. You know, it's just like, we couldn't come up with it ourselves almost, you know. It's like, and all those little nuances and the people and the places, and yeah.
yeah. I think that when when we start to experience the sensations and the feelings and the connection and the alignment to that truth, it actually becomes more painful not to follow heart. It's so much easier to surrender in a way, even though it's the unknown and the mind is like, ah. It's like when we can surrender to that and drop the mind and let go of the mind, and then allow our soul, spirit, heart to align, and that for us to take embodied action around that guidance, then life becomes, like you said, it becomes exciting, it becomes spontaneous, it becomes like possibly a movie, because you never know what's going to happen. And often, you know, with our mind, when we live through mind, we're often, you know, limiting ourselves, like, oh no, only this is possible, I'm worthy of only this, this is the experience I can manage in my mind. But when you live through heart, it blows it wide open, and anything is possible. And it's like the real key to this is courage, having the courage and trust to just leap into the adventure that awaits. And I so loved, you know, your experience of it. And I think, you know, when you start on this journey and you have experiences of hearing something or feeling something or seeing something or knowing something, and you're like, okay, I'm going to do this, and then you have the external reinforcement of that, which you're getting. It's like, okay, so if I trust myself and I just surrender, then the answer will come. And then the answer comes, and then you're like, oh, I can do this. And then you have another moment where, you know, you feel guided to do something, or something's coming in, and you're like, okay, so I'm surrendering to this. And then you have the universal reinforcement of that, and you're like, oh, I am supported. I am, you know, I can trust myself, as well as spirit, heart, which I don't really feel is a separation from myself. But yeah, then you start going, well, actually now I can start taking bigger steps and bigger steps and bigger steps. And each time it grows you out of your comfort zone and reinforces that trust in yourself, trust in your heart, trust in the universe, that you'll always be provided for. But you only know this, you only experience this when you let go and you surrender.
Can you just speak to that a little bit? Just because I know for me, for a long time, like I would hear people saying that. Now I know what it means, because I've lived it and I can sense, like I know what it is now. But I'm wondering, like, yeah, if you are able to speak to what that actually means to let go and surrender.
Wow. Okay. So there's the mental idea of that. So I have an idea that if I do this, then I surrender. And I find that most, for myself anyway, a lot of spiritual concepts are first sort of like on a mental concept. And then it becomes like an embodied experience, and then the awareness, of what that truly means. So for me, I would say that I didn't fully embody what that meant until I came back from my training in Bali on the Women's Tantric Teacher Training, where I had the experience of an invitation of the divine masculine actually, asking for me to surrender my physical body into what felt like the ethers. Like I felt like I was going to fall over. Literally, I was bent in half. I was guided through a meditation. My body moved me into a space of enfoldment. So I was folded forward, and I was leaning into nothing, like nothing. And I was invited by the divine to lean into it. And when myself, I'm so used to leaning into something physical for support, it seemed illogical to surrender my physicality to the ethers. But what happened was, when I did, and I was literally leaning forward, I was being supported by the divine. And then what happened to me is, after that experience, I had gone through such a shift in surrendering. It was almost like, I don't know if I surrendered like ego, or I surrendered the illusion of so maybe just surrendered the illusion of, I don't know what it was. I'm still integrating it. But then after that, I had the experience of being fed by the divine. And then I was like, oh my God, I'm being fed right now. And it wasn't me. Like I was like not there, but I was there. I was observing, and the divine was moving me, because I was like pure, like consciousness. And I was like, this is very interesting. And I was watching myself having this experience. And then I got up and I tried walking, and I was like, oh my God, I'm not walking. The divine is walking through me. I'm having the experience of being moved by something other than myself. And in fact, maybe this has always been happening, but I've always believed, or had the illusion, that I was in control. And so I had this very curious experience of being walked. So I was watching myself being walked. And I would say that this is my first embodied experiences of what it means to surrender and to trust, to know that you're not doing, but you're being done. It's like, but I've had the illusion that I was doing. And now when I've surrendered myself to spirit, to the divinity in me, like the consciousness that is both within me and beyond me, that I fully have experienced the state of being. So I would say that I don't know if that's answered your question, but that is definitely the embodied example from this sense of wanting to step into a state of being as a logical concept, knowing that is possible, to having an experience where that is an embodied reality.
Yeah, and that feels really important, that part about like that it's happening in the body. It's through the experience of the body, surrendering the body, like, going into deep relaxation, actually having the physical sensation of surrender, not just a concept in the mind of surrendering, and like it being mental, like, oh, I'll give up that thought, or I'll give up this, and I'll stop doing that. But it's this like full embodied Was that kind of your experience? It was like through the surrender, were you surrendering within your body? Like, were you in meditation in that kind of?
How I arrived there was through meditation,
Yeah,
but the state of being was a meditation.
yeah,
Um, and the um, embodied experience of being one with everything,
yeah,
while observing myself being done.
yeah,
So I remember that I had wanted to go and see dolphins on one of the mornings. I go on this boat tour at like 5 a.m. to see these dolphins. And this day, when I had this experience, this shift, and then I was watching the water, and I was like feeling like, whoa, I'm like the water. I'm the water. Then I saw these dolphins, and like my heart was about to like explode, because it was like I was watching. It was like I was one with everything. So I was both in my body and one with everything, and watching my physical body being done. So it was like an expanded state of consciousness. And yeah, having grown up in the way that I did, with the need to create structures within myself to support myself and to live in the way that I did, or to survive in the way that I did as a sensitive, in the world that I grew up in, and within the family container that I grew up in, I had quite a lot of structures in place to protect myself. But those structures all fell away. It was like I've been in this process, as you know, through surrendering, and it felt like all the work that I had done or had been doing was in preparation for this moment where I could fully surrender. And also what helped was that the facilitation of the meditation was being held in a way that I felt like I could surrender to that level. And for me, that is the ultimate surrender. When you can surrender almost the physical body, you can surrender the mind, for that, for spirit, for the divine to be moving through you in a way that you lose your identity of Kyla. I lose my identity of Kyla, and and just step into this connection with oneness and like bliss. I remember in another incident where I ended up in a state of bliss. I was reborn into a state of bliss, and almost had to relearn how to, like, and I saw like through the people around me, like, so one, I had the experience of being held by the divine in the ethers. And then I had another experience of being held by the divine, but through others. So the divine was working. I could see the divine working through the people around me to support me. And then I started to see that actually that's what life is. It is the divine working through all of us, guiding us in the way to show up in the way that we are for everyone, in the way that we do, to support each other, on our journey back to the wholeness, the oneness, the greatness of who we are. And all of this, like, ending up in Bali on a women's tantric teacher training was all guided by heart. In fact, I remember arriving on the training, and that they were saying, oh, we're going to do these practices and then we're going to learn how to teach them. I was like, oh, right. I'm on a tantric teacher training. That's why I'm here. And so I think on one level, I was here for that, but my heart, my soul knew that I would then be walking through these different practices that would then have me have these embodied experiences. So my mind didn't even know why I was there. I remember them saying, "So what is your intention for being here?" And I was like, "I don't know." I don't know. I'm here because my heart guided me to come here. And so it's more of a discovery than
Yeah.
an understanding. And so that is my life. My life has become one big discovery and one big adventure. And that's because I've been able to surrender the mind and the knowing, or the needing to know, for the truth in my heart.
Yeah. Oh wow, this makes me want to go off into, I'm gonna have to check how long we've been. Yeah, this almost makes me want to go off into the whole our conversation around manifestation and manifesting our dreams and stuff, because I think it begins to take it into a whole other reality and on a whole other level. Like, yeah, I don't know if I should even speak to that right now. I'm aware of how long we've been speaking for. I think we've done about an hour. So
Let's say, Layla.
my heart, what does my heart say? It's such a good question, Kyla. Yeah, let's just speak to that really quickly. Are you up for
Sure.
just, yeah, I mean, because there's such a big push, or a big it's very fashionable in the spiritual communities at the moment to talk about manifestation and techniques and ways of manifesting. And so often we try and control what we want to manifest. Whereas what I'm hearing through your story and through what I'm experiencing right now, of like, I've got a sense of what I know I want, but do I really know that that's what I want? Um, or am I just on this journey of discovery? Like you were saying, it's like when you go into this journey of discovery, it's a whole other thing. I read a book a few months back called The Surrender Experience, and this guy is just surrendering and just saying yes to everything that shows up in his life. And that's what I'm kind of hearing with you. It's like that saying yes to what shows up and then going on an amazing experience with it. And I don't know if I had a question within that really. It just feels like another level to understanding how to create our reality, the reality that is most in alignment with who we truly are at the level of spirit and at the level of heart. And what I'm finding for myself right now is the more that I go in and the more that I strengthen my inner space, then everything sort of like arranges itself around me. But I don't necessarily know what I want it to look like, or I don't. Does it make sense what I'm saying? Like,
Yes, I hear.
yeah, yeah. I'm just realizing there's so many levels to this. I think it's like it is quite a big conversation, because there is the holding of a vision of what we want for ourselves, but then also there are these moments where heart and spirit comes in, whether it be from the outside as well, because heart and spirit moves through us. I was invited to come here. I didn't go like I want to be there. I kind of knew what I wanted. I knew where I wanted to be living, the environment and the feeling, but I didn't know what it looked like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so when it comes, so maybe just we can finish up maybe with you just speaking about, because I know that you do hold visions for what you want. So maybe, I don't know if you've got anything to add to when it comes to following the heart and manifesting your desires.
Yes. So I think when I started on this journey of manifestation, again, it was a intellectual concept of like, like I watched The Secret and I was learning about manifesting, my dreams or my reality. Um, and what I can see is the difference between how I was living and manifesting and how I am living and manifesting is that from that place, there might have been more presence of ego.
Yeah.
So I would be trying to manifest what Kyla, the personality, wanted to manifest as Kyla, the personality. Um, and that might look very different from how it's looking now. But also, back then as well, I would have like guidances or visions, and often I will receive guidance or visions years in advance. So I will have a sense of what wants to manifest through me.
Mm.
And I would say that, where it becomes different is very much in manifesting it through the mind or what we think we want. Whereas what is now manifesting through me is it comes through me.
Mm-hmm.
It's not me. It's so when I receive a vision or guidance or a clairaudience or a sense of knowing, it comes to me rather than me going, I want this. So it's like I feel guided from within to create or to be. So for instance, that I've had this vision or guidance for over the last 15 years to create this space for women, this sort of sacred temple space, wellness space for women. And it's been sort of in me, and it keeps the intensity of it keeps building, and it's like, okay, Kyla, come on, keep holding this vision. So although it's me because I feel aligned to the calling of empowering women, or holding the space, not empowering them, but holding the space for them to feel empowered to make the choices that they want to make, and show them what their options are so they can make empowered decisions in their life. So I have that connection to that as a personality, but also as spirit. So holding that vision for that is coming both from within me and as the witnesser of these visions, this guidance that wants to come through, and taking the steps within my personality or in my body, which have now felt very like I don't feel like I don't even really have a lot of thoughts. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this whole conversation has just come from somewhere. I don't know where it's come from within me, but there's not a lot of thinking happening. So, right. Just connecting back in with myself. I just don't know where I went with that. So yeah, so the manifestations aren't coming through my mind. Like I don't want to create a certain reality. It's very much of a sensual experience. Like I get visions and guidance as to what reality I need to create, or that I'm being guided to create, or how can my life be more in alignment with my soul and my truth. And so I get visions and guidance through that in order to facilitate the next part of my journey. And it's very much from a place of living in the now, and taking the steps that are moving in me in the now. So I get guided. So I don't do a lot that's motivated from my mind these days. I very much wait until I feel moved to do something. And then when I get moved to do something, more things happen than I would have imagined possible in that time and space. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so spirit will move me. I'll feel moved by something to create it. And that's where I'm at right now in terms of manifestation. So yes, I'm holding this vision of this space that I'm creating, but I have no idea how it's going to be created. I have no idea who's going to be involved, how it's going to be able to finance itself to be created in a physical space, or even if it needs to be physical. And so I'm surrendered even to that. I'm surrendered to the vision manifesting in each moment and whatever that looks like. So there is no plans, but rather me just showing up in the moment and seeing what arises from that moment. So manifestation, looks very different than what it did before. So everything that I hold space for, and it's interesting. It's almost like when I work with clients, it's like holding that space for what's possible and allowing whatever's in truth to arise in that moment within that person, and whatever their soul is being guided to work through or heal. And I know that when we've done work together, you might have come in with like, oh, I want to do this, but actually in the session what happens is this and this, which is beyond what you might have come in thinking, feeling. So just like holding a client session is like facilitating or holding the space of a vision or the greatest possible outcome or the highest outcome for this person. It's like holding that vision and the highest outcome of that vision, or and then watching it unfold and being present with it in every moment as it unfolds in the way it's meant to unfold. So really the key is just to remain present and in action when it's being guided, through you from heart, in alignment with your commitment or that vision. And anything that's not in alignment with that commitment or that vision, it's like you have to tune in and go, is this aligned to this vision that I'm holding? Does this feel in truth for me? Or is this a distraction? So it's that, as you were saying, that refined interplay of spirit, connection to heart, and being present in the moment, and the manifestation coming from that place, from the moment. Yeah. And holding that space for whatever that looks like to unfold. Mm. Does that yeah, okay.
I think so.
Thank you for asking, because what I often find is I discover myself inside of people's questions. Like all of this is inside of me, and it isn't until someone asks that I then discover.
Yeah.
So thank you for that, because there's a lot in me I've seen today in our interview, or in our dance, in our conversation together.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, me too. It's really, I have the same experience actually, just by listening to people and having these conversations. Little light bulbs go off, and just deeper understanding of myself as well. It feels really potent. Oh, thank you so much for sharing all of this delicious heart-based juiciness. It's it's such a pleasure to dance with you in this space. And so I just wanted to finish by asking you if you're working on anything specific at the moment, or if anybody, or where people can find you if they want to get in touch or follow you on social media or anything like that.
Okay, so thank you for asking. I am in the midst of unfolding this vision, and so I'm in the process of creating a sort of an online sort of temple space for women to come and to connect with themselves and discover themselves. And also my husband and I are running a Journey into Heart, our course Journey into Heart, and that's coming up in July. And then we have our Discover Your Power, which is coming up in October. So these are very juicy, delicious offerings for people who are ready to courageously commit to living through heart and, connecting with their extrasensory senses and more of who they are. And you can reach me on Facebook at Kyla Williams, and it's KYLAWI11IAMS, and I'm also on Instagram at Kyla Williams 11IAMS.
I will put links below to all of your.
Yeah. And I've also got a website at www.kylawilliams.com, which, as I'm growing, is growing and expanding. So there's going to be lots of changes on that very soon, because I've got more things moving through me and coming through to be offered. And Layla, I don't know, I just love you so much. I'm just looking at you and I'm just like, oh, Layla.
Oh, I feel the same.
What? You're such a dear sister, and I feel ever so grateful to be on this journey of discovering ourselves and each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you for inviting me into this dance with you today.
Yeah, thank you. It's been such a joy, such a joy. And yeah, yeah. So I'm, I don't know what I was going to say then. I went a little bit blank.
Is there anything that you're working on, Layla, that
Me, I am working on something which is really
please share?
but I'm not ready to share about it yet. But I'm going to create a container for some for some. Yes, I'm not going to go into it, but I am creating something, and I'm very excited about it. So I will be sharing with everybody about that very soon. So I just want to say thank you to everybody for watching.
Thank you,
Yeah.
everybody. Thank you.
And if you've enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share. And check out all the links below. I'll put everything in there so you can find Kyla. And I will be bringing more of these interviews through when Spirit brings me the right people. So as and when. So sending so much love out to everybody. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you so much. Thank you.